questions with regard to what we have covered to this point, now is the time. You can ask them now.
Okay. So, Nuruddin Binami has asked my private...
Nuruddin Binami?
Binami.
Binami.
Or Bimani.
Okay.
She got influenced by the topic of this discussion.
I was really taken aback. I was like, does somebody has that name?
Sorry, my bad.
It happens. It's perfectly fine.
My private limited company has underpaid provisional tax due to difference in interpretation of law. So is it possible for us to use amnesty law and pay the tax which is lower than actual tax?
Yes, you can. Good news.
Is there, Waqas Ahmed has asked, is there any restriction on the sale or purchase of any asset disclosed under Benami Act, like to whom it could or couldn't be sold?
I don't think you'll be disclosing under Benami Act. I think what you wanted to say was perhaps that is there any restriction on assets to be sold that are declared under this asset declaration ordinance. If that is your question, no.
Okay, Sheroz has asked if any husband bought house in the name of his wife and now want to declare the property, so should he declare an amnesty scheme or make his wife filer and declare it? In case wife becomes filer, what will be the tax implications and tax rate?
You really should go to a tax advisor. But anyway, briefly, you can do both. Which one would be most beneficial for you would depend on your individual circumstances. For that, I would suggest meet any good tax advisor or professional that you trust, share with them the details, and they'll advise you. If you want, I'll be sharing our firm's contact detail at the end. The initial consultation is absolutely free of cost. You can give reference of ACCA, you'll be treated like VIP in that case, and you can simply get an idea which is the best way for you going forward, and then make your own decision. Next.
Abdul Wahab has asked, if a taxpayer declares his Benami property in the scheme, will the Benamidar will be protected?
Oh, that's a really good question. I like your thought process. Well, there's nothing that would implicate him, but still, I would wait for the rules to be released. With regard to this ordinance, there's nothing that is implicating the Benamidar. The person who held the Benami seems to be totally protected, but let's just wait for the rules to be released to be more sure about that. Next.
Amir Amiruddin Bana has asked, if someone has property with legitimate income, however, forgets to declare in their return, then what will he do?
Before I answer that, can you tell me how can somebody forget to declare? I mean, it's not like something
It might happen.
entire property. We are not talking about a few thousand rupees. Okay, if somebody forgot to declare and they have been filing, then they can do one of the two things. They can go for a revision by the book, or they can avail amnesty. Practically, go for amnesty. If you go for a revision, more likely than not, FBR would open your audit. Okay, and that can lead you to a lot of troubles. So I would suggest in your scenario, it's a general suggestion without any liability, because I don't know your exact circumstances. Again, do consult a professional first. But generally, what you have asked in that scenario, generally speaking, the amnesty scheme is better. Next.
Sayyid Haris Ahmed has asked, can an individual file declaration under ASO while his case is pending with tax department?
Well, it depends on which stage is your case. Is it with Commissioner Appeal? Has it gone to tribunal or a court of law? So if you can tell me at which stage is your case, I can guide you. Next.
Rahil Feroz has asked, if overseas Pakistani who is not a registered taxpayer of Pakistan and all his savings earned from Saudi and kept it in Saudi, do I require to declare savings from the foreign account maintained in Saudi Arabia, or should I require to pay tax when I transfer my money to Pakistan?
Well, there are two things. If you'll repatriate your money to Pakistan through banking channel, under Section 111 and under the Economic Reform Act 1992, it would automatically be protected. There would be no tax on it and no question asked up till a certain limit, $100,000. So if the amount is still that and you repatriate that to Pakistan through banking channel, you have nothing to worry. If the amount is more than that and you want to bring it to Pakistan, then it might be better to declare it. Next.
He has further stated that I am not a registered taxpayer and got the land from inheritance. Will there be any benefit to my by declaring this land?
Can I ask if you hold an NTN already or not? And if you do, if you are filing your tax return, because my answer would really depend on these things. So let me know. Meanwhile, I'll answer the other questions. Next.
Can you please elaborate the term undisclosed expenditure as defined in the ordinance?
Well, it is what we discussed initially in the intro to any expenditure that you have not disclosed or underreported. For example, how can that be? Maybe there was a private company, for some reason they forgot to mention their proper expenses and underreported. Now it might be that they transacted with the counterparties who have reported that, and whenever there would be an audit of one of the two parties, it would come to light. So they can get their affairs in order by declaring those expenses. So if you have underreported your expenses, you have not declared your expenses, you can do that by way of this, by just paying a meager 4% on that. Next.
Talha Saeed has asked if the bank account of a taxpayer is not declared, having 20 million undisclosed credits and 18 million undisclosed or unaccounted debits in it for the tax year, resulting to closing balance of undeclared 2 million, how will we declare it in this tax amnesty? Assuming out of these 18 million debits, 14 million is the purchase of an undeclared vehicle and 4 million are the unaccounted expenses, remaining 2 million is the closing undeclared balance.
ACCA does not provide paid services, content and consultant. And I would suggest one thing, try not giving out so much specific information over these recorded sessions. It's always advisable to go in person or speak in person because these are your private information. In any case, from what you are telling, it seems like they are undisclosed income receipt in the account, they are undisclosed expenses, and then you have the cash balance. So in my opinion, these three categories would need to be declared as per the relevant amount on the relevant tax rates. For more information, feel free to contact us.
Okay. Farwa Abbas has asked what will be the treatment on next year of declaration?
Very good question. It would be incorporated into next year's return.
Hassan Abbas Awan has asked what about legal ownership in case of Benami assets? Even if one declared that asset in the scheme, what about legal status after declaration?
Well, if you have declared the asset, then the first thing you should do is get it transferred in your name. I mean, why did you hold it in the name of a Benamidar in the first place? Because you were hiding the legal title. You did not want it to come to the fore. So once you are declaring it in the amnesty, you have got it legitimate. It is all whitened. Why would you still want to hold it in the name of the Benamidar? Get it transferred in your name.
Okay, last comment.
Hang on. Let me clear the concept a little bit. The legal title is a different thing. The legal title is who owns it. And then there is the beneficial owner. So with Benamidar, the legal title is held by maybe your servant, but you are actually the beneficial owner. Because you have tried to camouflage the transaction by holding it in someone's name who is not actually the beneficial owner. Remember, in the context of discussions of Panama, the trust, the beneficial owner, those concepts come into play here. So if you are availing the amnesty, you are legitimizing your asset. In that case, I would professionally suggest that there would not be an issue left now, and hence you should transfer the legal title in your name too, but that would not automatically happen by just declaring the amnesty. You can't think that because I've declared it in the amnesty, it would be in my name. No, it doesn't work like that. What if somebody declares your property in their name? Would it become yours? No. You actually have to then go through the legal process and transfer the title in your name as well. I hope that makes it clear. Next.
She has further said that I did not understand the next year treatment. If we declare land,
Who is she, please?
Sarwa Abbas.
Okay.
If we declare land through amnesty, will we get those reduced rates on next year's too? Or after declaration, everything will be normal?
Further, the wealth tax in Pakistan got abolished more than a decade ago. So you don't pay tax on the property every year. The next time you'll have to pay the tax on the property would be when you'll dispose of the property. You might have a capital gain or not, depending on how long you held it for and at what price you sold it. And you would definitely need to pay advance income tax as a seller. Okay. Then you get property tax challans. Those property taxes are by the local excise and taxation department. It has nothing to do with the FPR. People often confuse that with it. So what we are talking about is the income tax, the Federal Board of Revenue. The local property tax challan that you receive from excise and taxation, it has nothing to do with this, and they are normally issued on the DC values and some adjustment each year made accordingly with reference to the market value. I hope that makes it clear. Next.
Mohammed Hamza is asked if a non-filer avails amnesty, how will he become a filer? Because under section 182, ATL does not get updated regularly now. Are there any chances of this clause to be removed?
That's a very good question, Hamza. Just the other day, ACCA and I, as the chair of the Taxation Committee, was having a discussion with our partners on the same thing. This is something that ACCA is also proposing, that for broadening of tax base, many steps need to be taken, and one of them might be this. As far as your question is concerned, again, we'll have to wait for the rules to be released by FPR. It might be that FPR allows the non-filer to file that, or if they just want the filers to avail that, but still have the wider population as a target, then they will need to create some sort of a mechanism. Maybe extend the date to become the filer by 30th June, perhaps. So they need to work out some kind of mechanism. And I do know that this is a point that is being discussed. Let's just wait till next week, by the time we'll have the rules available to us, and the situation would be clear then. And inshallah, we'll have a session, a small session on the rules too, right?
Rahil Feroz has said that as you asked, I don't have MTN, got the land transferred into my name via inheritance. Will there be any benefit for by declaring this land?
Absolutely, it would become your legitimate wealth and you'll have the white money. So my suggestion to you, do get the MTN, come within the legal ambit.
Usman Khan has said second partner beneficiary could be affected by this.
Second partner beneficiary?
Let's clarify the question. Ahmed in the meanwhile is asking, dependents, for example, wife, need to file tax returns having no income and owning inherited land?
If she owns the land, she needs to file. Remember, as I've clarified before, the regulatory requirement of filing the tax return has nothing to do with the fact that whether you actually have any taxable income or have to pay any tax or not. There is a term we use, BTL, below taxable limit. You still file the return for that. You might have no income, you might have below taxable income, but you need to file the tax return to discharge your legal liability.
Two more questions. Hassan Abbas Salam has asked, while transferring legal ownership, one has to pay transfer tax and some other taxes. Are those taxes exempted after declaration? What about sales deed? Without that, one cannot transfer the asset.
Okay, good question. you're confusing two things here. The transfer of property, that is all being done at the provincial level. The amnesty is for the undeclared wealth. The undeclared wealth, expenses, sales, assets you are holding for those. You can legitimize that. Because if you don't, with the law of the Benami Act, they can be confiscated by the state. You can end up in the prison. It is how serious it is, right? Now for transferring the asset, you would need to pay the due fees to the relevant authority. For example, you hold a property in, let's say, DHA or Bahia town, and you had that in your driver's name. So now to transfer that in your name, you will still need to pay the relevant transfer fee and the duties. They are not exempted by way of the amnesty. The amnesty has allowed you to legitimize your undeclared wealth per se. I hope it clarifies the question.
Vijay Arjuna has asked, does this allow one to buy and sell property immediately after declaration, or will that person have to wait until his name appears in the ATL?
That's a good question, Vajat. Again, we'll have to wait for the rules that are being formulated to see whether they just insert a clause or a mechanism that filing the declaration you become a filer, or whether they extend the date. So because there is ambiguity at the point on this, at the moment on this point, so I'd suggest wait till next week. By the time we'll have the rules, and it would be more clear then.
Last question, Adnan Ahmed Ansari has asked,
Are you sure? Last question?
Yeah.
Don't be so sure.
Cash deposits in case if the salary